evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 1 of season 2. This is Empire State of Baseball. Guys, listen, we are in our second season, our 40th episode, our 1-year anniversary from starting off this podcast just last season. How quickly time flies. I can't believe it's been 1 year already. But Tom, how you feeling this evening on the 1-year anniversary?
Yeah, mostly tired still with the 6-month-old, but generally good. Excited to kick off season 2 here with everyone, and I will even include Joe. I'm excited to start season 2 with him as well.
Yeah, it's been good. It's great to have baseball back. I tell you, coming home from work and watching games, having something on, that's great. So time flies. Glad the off season's over, but I'm excited. Baseball's back every single day, and there's nothing better than that.
There's really nothing like opening day, opening weekend for Major League Baseball. The Yanks and Mets off to a nice start to their season, winning their 2 series. We're going to get more into Yankees and Mets baseball. But before we get there, I know, Corey, we have a lot to do on tonight's show. What's some of our things that our fans should be expecting for tonight?
Definitely. We have an action-packed show today. We're actually going to start off in a moment here with our first guest of Season 2, Homer Bush, former New York Yankee, current Staten Island Ferry Hawk manager. So looking forward to that interview coming up in just a moment here. We also have some of returning segments, right? We have Guess the Graph returning again this season. We'll talk a little bit about opening day. Again, we just mentioned baseball's back on TV. No better way to spend an evening than watching baseball. Luckily for the Mets today, it was an early 2 o'clock game. We got that clunker out of the way early this afternoon. And then another returning segment, Chooch's Pick of the Week, where we'll be reviewing the upcoming week of baseball and what will be the hot pick for this week. But Rich, why don't you go ahead and give our guest of the evening a nice introduction here?
Absolutely. So our special guest, which we are so honored to have for the very first time on our program, he was drafted by the San Diego Padres in 1991 and would go on to make his Major League debut on August the 16th, 1997 with the New York Yankees, where in his 2 seasons in the Bronx, he would hit .378 and be part of and win the 1998 World Series championship, which, of course, the Yankee fans are celebrating the 25th anniversary for. Our guest also would continue his work in baseball after stops in Toronto and Florida and even back in New York with the organizations of the San Diego Padres and the Texas Rangers. And since 2022, our guest would take a stab at managing. He would become the manager for the Mahoning Valley Scrappers of the MLB Draft League and currently of the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball's Staten Island Ferry Hawks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Homer Bush.
What's up, fellas?
Hey, Homer, how's it going?
Homer.
Outstanding. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. And thank you for coming onto the show. We welcome you to Staten Island. Of course, is a team that's near and dear to our hearts, being a bunch of Staten Island kids that are watching a lot of baseball at the ballpark at SIUH Community Park. But I got to ask you, so ahead of the 2023 season, what are your expectations for the team? And what were some of the conversations you had to get involved with the Ferry Hawks this year?
Well, the expectation is to win it all. I know there's a lot of good teams in the Atlantic League. It's a veteran league, but we're going to come in and compete. We're going to bring a little bit different flavor. We're going to have a mixed balance on our roster, some young guys, some veteran. But we're going to be, with the way our ballpark plays, we're going to be more of a get on base, high contact, stolen base type of team. So that's going to be the philosophy out the gate. And, like I've been telling people, and when certain people call and say, take a call, you do that. So especially when you get an opportunity to coach in a major market team in New York, I mean, no matter what it is, you jump at it and you just deal with the results.
Absolutely. And again, we're happy to have you with this organization. You've had the honor to play with several great managers over your career. Is there any inspiration you're drawing from some of those managers you've played with as you entered the 2023 season?
Gosh, lots of it. Matter of fact, I can go all the way back to the minors. Very first game, first full season was like 5 minutes early to the bus. Manager said, "You're late. If you're not here 15 minutes prior to bus leaving, you're late." So, I played for a manager named Dave Tremblay, who was very disciplined. You can tell he was very structured. So that's something I took away from my experience with him. But of all the managers I've played for, Joe Torre's had the biggest impact on me. He had just allowed guys to play. He trusted his players. It was all about us. I mean, just think, I was a rookie on the '98 World Series team, and man, he put me in a big role. You know, when the game was on the line, and he'll let you, he'll try you, he'll test you. As long as you're doing the job, he just keeps running you out there. So that's going to be a large part of my philosophy this season. There's a lot of players that I don't know a lot about other than video and what I read on Baseball Reference, but I'm just going to run him out there and let's just see what happens.
Yeah, Homer, talk about a little bit when you transition over from managing in the prospect league. Obviously, it's a more developmental focused. You're preparing these kids to come into minor league camps and prepare for the draft. What's the difference in approach when you go from that to where you're going into the Atlantic League? It's a little bit more veteran. You have more guys who have been around the block. What's the difference of an approach of a manager in that situation?
Well, the draft league, I always say it's really good for first-time managers. The reason for that is because it's two halves. So the first half, it really is a developmental league. Mm-hmm. But the last 40 games, it's a competitive league. So there's no more developing. You're really trying to win. So so you get to learn the first, at least watch things develop and get a feel for what you would do in these situations. So I took huge advantage of that, and so the second half was a lot easier for me. I just because I felt like I had already been in these positions before, and these some of the decisions I thought I would make, and it was a lot easier transition. But managing the Atlanta League is going to be a lot more of that second half. I always say when you manage, you have to be able to impact one side of the ball. You have to be an offense. You have to be an offensive guy, or you have to be at least a guy who pitched in the major leagues or pitched at somewhere. If you're gonna have a real impact, decision making is really not that big of a deal. If you ask me, when it comes to managing, because the situations usually arise a lot. So you usually have your 6, 7, 8 guys and your closer. So you just got to make sure they stay healthy. Run them out there. For me, the one challenge, we have a lot of good talent. Making sure everybody get enough at bats to keep them happy is probably what's going to be my biggest challenge.
Great. And I got to ask, you're coming to Staten Island. We have an absolutely beautiful ballpark. Talk about that a little bit. Do you think it might be the best view, not only in the Atlantic League, but of all the ballparks you've seen? Talk a little bit about seeing that skyline in the back during night games.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, just waking up and going to a baseball field as a job is already a cool thing, right? Mm-hmm. So then you go and you got views like that we have there, we're going to have there in Staten Island is, that's just kind of icing on the cake. It just, the season can be long. So, if you have that to look forward to, it can definitely help the season go by a little quicker, and you enjoy the process a lot more.
Great.
PNC Park has nothing on the views from Staten Island.
Yeah, I know PNC Park, one of my personal favorites, at least in terms of the MLB parks. Love PNC, beautiful ballpark. I'm actually going out to San Francisco in a couple of weeks to see the Mets play out there too. So I never went out to San Francisco. Definitely looking forward to going out there next. But I know Joe was talking a little bit about Staten Island, and you're coming over, that great view. We have a question in the chat that I want to bring up. Not sure if you had an opportunity to explore it just yet, but New York always got the best pizza in the country. Greg Kunderi 11 in the chat is asking, what is your favorite Staten Island pizza spot? And if you don't have a Staten Island spot just yet, your time in New York, what was your favorite pizza place that you visited?
Good question, man. I do not have one yet in Staten Island, but I have been told there are several. So I'm looking forward to that. And, the craziest thing in '98, guys, when I tell you I didn't get out much, man, it was from my apartment. I went from my apartment to the stadium. So I'm looking forward to getting out and trying the different pizza spots. But I tell you what, there's a lot of places outside of New York that say they got New York style pizza that I can tell you about.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've been to Chicago also. In Chicago,
Yeah.
There were some good spots. I gotta say, Lou Malnati's very good pizzeria. Not gonna lie, but nothing's gonna beat the classic New York traditional. And I believe right now, Homer, you're actually based out of Texas at the moment, right?
You know what? I moved over to Arizona, but I was in
Oh,
Texas.
okay,
Yeah.
Arizona. So you got a little barbecue food in Texas. I know we actually have some really good barbecue food. Got to give a recommendation. It's not going to beat your time in Texas, I'm sure. But you have to visit Hometown Barbecue in Red Hook, Brooklyn. That's another great food spot in the area. So you definitely have to go check that out as well. Hometown Barbecue. But Arizona itself, another beautiful city. I've been to Chase Field before to see the Diamondbacks play out there, and interesting out there too. They got the roof. I know there's a whole debate about roofs and domes versus open air stadium. Have to ask, as a player and now being a manager for the Atlantic League teams too, what's your opinion? We've had a lot of debates on this in the past, on an open roof stadium versus a dome or a roof. I know the pros, you always know the game's going to be on as scheduled, but nothing sometimes beats that great view, like Joe was mentioning before, of the skyline. So what's your opinion on playing indoors versus outdoors?
Well, performance-wise, you definitely don't want to have to deal with the elements, so you want the roof, right? But man, in Arizona and Texas, you want the roof in the summer.
Yeah. Yep.
Can imagine.
Yeah, so I would say those would be the two differences. That if you want to hit a lot of home runs, you want to play indoors. You don't have to worry about if the wind is blowing out or blowing to right or blowing to left. But
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And Homer, I know you mentioned the '98 Yankees already. We can't not ask you a little bit about, in my opinion, probably a lot of people in the chat's opinion, the greatest team that any of us have ever seen, probably in any of the four sports. What were some of the things you think in that locker room, other than just the absolute talent on the team that made that team so special, that made you guys click the way you did?
I always say that it was like everyone had a role and they did their job. And so, give me an example. I mean, you had Darryl Strawberry, Tim Raines, Chili Davis coming off the bench. I mean, those guys could have blown up the locker room if they wanted to, but you could tell the team was going to be special because it's on paper, there was a lot of good pieces. So like I said, when Joe called on you to do something, you did it. If you get a chance, look at Darryl Strawberry's numbers from that season. God, I think he had like 270, 350, I can't remember ABs, but I think he hit like 20-something home runs. And a lot of those were coming off the bench. So, that's what I remember. No one was bigger than the team. No one hit, like I always say, I don't think nobody hit 40 home runs that year. I think most of the guys were in the 20s. So, guys was just grinding. And the last thing, a lot of those guys went on to be Hall of Famers, like Jeter, Mariano, Bernie should be. Tino had a fantastic career. They were, Tino was a little bit older, but man, those guys were young. They were just trying to figure it out. So it's easy now to say that, well, look, they had all them Hall of Famers. It was like, no, they weren't Hall of Famers at that time. They were just babies trying to get it done. So, it was just young guys going to work, trying to have enough success to play the next season.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you look at it now, you see there's a lot of guys who would become superstars, but at the time, none of them were. Derek Jeter wasn't Derek Jeter. Mariano wasn't really Mariano at the time. They were good young players, just making it happen. A team that great, not really having, you said, no 40 home run guys, no guys like that, which is really incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. It seemed like we won almost every day. It was crazy.
Let me tell you, as like an 8-year-old, that's how I felt for me too. I was like, this is great. The Yankees just win every day. Baseball's fun.
Yeah.
I have to say, growing up, I grew up as a Mets fan too. So growing up, my school was such a big Yankee school too, and it seemed like every year they were having big Yankee parties. So it definitely was great to grow up a Yankee fan in that era, late '90s, early 2000s. But as a Met fan too, listen, it made you want that championship more as a Mets fan because you got to see your opposing crosstown rival going out and win it, what seemed to be year after year during that era. So definitely a great Great era for New York sports. And it's actually a good era of New York sports right now, too. New York Mets bringing in Steve Cohen brings new life to Flushing in Queens with the Mets. Yankees right now bringing back Aaron Judge, huge extension, named him the captain too. How do you feel about the season that Aaron Judge put up for the Yankees last year? And how do you think he's going to live up to that long contract they just gave him?
Well, you know, it's hard to say, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows there's going to be a couple years on the back end where it's going to be a farewell tour, right? So, but I do think, with, you know, as long as he stays healthy, you know, he can hit 40 a year not even trying, and, you know, walk 100 times, score 100 runs. So I don't think fulfilling that contract is going to be too difficult. It, like I was saying, just staying healthy. If you ask me, it would probably be the main goal, you know, with that deal. And trying to outdo what he did last season, oh man, that's going to be extremely difficult to do. So, you know, like I think that some of his projected numbers were, like I was saying, right around 300, 43 home runs, you know, 890 some RBI. So, you know, I think he can do that consistently for the next 5 to 7 years with no problem.
And as a Yankee fan, one could only hope. But one of the biggest talk in town for the New York Yankees is the evolution of Anthony Volpe, who's been a hot name to talk about. And as a middle infielder yourself, who was only a few feet away from Volpe's earliest comparison in Derek Jeter, what do you see in this kid? Do you see this guy living up to that kind of comparison? I know it's big shoes to fill, but what were your early thoughts on Anthony Volpe?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Derek, you know, Derek had a long career, and so his numbers were like just off the charts, you know, because he was so consistent each year. You know, I think Volpe has that type of talent. Like, he has the type of talent where he's going to be disciplined. He's not going to, you know, it's like a young man that makes a lot of good decisions, got a lot of good people around him. But when I watch him on the field, he seems like he's not trying to do too much. He just want to catch the ground ball, and all he want to do is put the ball in play and then steal bases. I think he can have an even better career than Jeter power-wise, but the thing that we need to see is, can he hit for a high enough average to get the hit totals where Jeter's are? But I do think his power numbers will probably end up being better than Jeter's if he played 15, 20 years. Can you believe I just said that? 20 years. Yeah, if he played 20 years.
Homer, I'm buying what you're selling, man. You give me Judge 40 home runs every year for the next 5. You give Volpe 20 years. Like, oh boy, Homer.
Sign on the dotted line for that.
Absolutely.
Listen, Homer, you mentioned the stolen bases. I gotta ask, you stole a couple bags yourself. I think you had a bunch there in '99. What would a 20-something Homer Bush, what would he steal in 2023 if you played under this rules package that we just implemented with the wider bases? You think you could steal 50 in a season?
Oh, no doubt. You know, it's amazing because I stole 30-something in 4 months. So I know I can get another 20 with the new rules. You know, you make the bases bigger. I increase my lead a little bit more. Make them throw over a couple times, then I'm gone. It's like, man, so yeah.
I mean, listen, Gleyber Torres has 3 through 4 games, and he's not the fastest guy. I'm thinking Homer's at least getting 70, 80 bags in 2023.
I thought 50 was kind of low too, but man, I'm
yeah.
not here.
Well, I mean, Joe's opinions are normally pretty off, so yeah, I'm thinking 70, 80 easy.
How many would Ricky steal? I mean, you think about the guy who stole, he wouldn't be caught. He would walk to every base in this rule set.
Hey, they come up with a new stat, like how many no throws down the second base.
Oh. Yep. What's the point? I mean, you're only gonna, if you throw it away, he's gonna take third.
Yep.
Exactly.
Ricky was a bad man. Ricky was a bad man.
And he would tell you about it too, I'm sure.
That's the best part.
Definitely.
It's a twofold game. It's a twofold game with him. But anyway, if you are just joining us here on Twitch, we thank you so much. We do have a ton of viewers who are coming in and keep piling in. So I thank you guys for the participation in the chat as well. And checking out the At the Plate with Homer Bush. We're going to get into Guess the Graph in a little bit. And but before we get there, I just wanted to give you guys some notes on Twitch and how to subscribe. Obviously, we have a good viewership right now, but we could do a lot better. So let's send that link out to your friends. Why not? Download Twitch and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. The Twitch stream can be found in the link tree on both our Instagram, which is at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram, and Twitter at ESB Podcast. So find the link tree, find the link, send it out. It's a lot of instructions, but it's for a good cause because we got Homer here for an episode number 40 of Empire State of Baseball, our season 2 premiere. So, Thomas, this is your time to shine because it's now time for Guess the Graph, which is a classic game that we haven't played in a while. So, Tom, when you're ready, what's our ball today?
Yeah, so it should be coming up on the screen here momentarily. Yeah, so, Homer, we wanted to guess the graph, pretty self-explanatory. Got an autograph ball here. I've collected a lot through my time of going down to Florida with my family for spring training and, getting as many autographs as I can. So we got one here. Want to see if you have a guess of who it might be. And, we'll see if you got any thoughts.
Yeah, so, the obvious would be Tino Martinez. But
sometimes the obvious is the correct answer. Sometimes the obvious is the correct answer.
Yeah, I'm really softballing on that one.
Got any good Tino stories?
I would love to hear him. He was my favorite player on those teams. It wasn't Jeter. It was like the one kid. I was like, no, Tino's my guy. So I would love some Tino stuff. Got a Tino story for us.
Man, Tino was so cool. Here's a guy, man, I promise you. I don't think this cat never had a speeding ticket or anything. He is just very solid, salt to the earth teammate. And I think there's not a whole lot of stories out there about him because, man, he just came to the yard every day, played, and went home to his family. So he was definitely one of the good guys. I see Tino every so often, and I promise you, every time I see him, it's almost like seeing family again. He's always excited to see me, ask me about my family. So man, he was one of the good ones.
I was gonna say, were you there when in '98 for the brawl with the Orioles when he got hit in the back, or were you? Because that's if people in there haven't watched that brawl. Speaking of Darryl Strawberry being a crazy man, were you there for that? And the way they responded to protect Tino was awesome.
Yeah. No, I tell you what. Funny story from that brawl, because that brawl got out of hand quick.
Sure did.
Yeah. But Eric Davis told Tim Raines, he said, man, you guys were serious. Y'all ran your bat boy out here. And he said, who? He pointed at me and he said, man, that's Homer Bush. He not bat boy.
Nice. Darryl Strawberry and Graham Lloyd were out for blood that night.
That was the Armando Benitez one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Joe Tino right between the 2 and the 4.
Oh, boy.
Dude, Benitez was a scary man. Dude, I'll tell you, you got to pack a lunch when you come at him.
For sure. And then, Hope, I have to ask you. So we do have Staten Island Yankees used to play at Richmond County Bank Ballpark, now the new home of the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. But I have to ask, MLB Pipeline, 88th overall right now, ranked up-and-coming young kid, Homer Bush Jr. Homer, how you feeling about your son here? He's putting up great numbers for Grand Canyon U. How you feeling about your son and all his hard work he's put in thus far?
Oh, man, so excited for the young man. Dude, you talk about a solid human being. And for his game to be taken off the way it is, his makeup, his mom did a fantastic job with him off the field. But, man, everything is kind of coming together at the right time. And one thing I can say about his path to where he is now, he's had a lot of good coaches and he played with some really cool teammates over the years. And he's learned a lot. So for it all to be coming together at this time is amazing. Exciting energy around here. And also, man, I tell you, it's nerve-wracking too, right? Because junior year is when you have the most leverage. So we can get through one more half of the season, then let's just see what happens with the draft.
Exactly, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I hope,
hopefully,
Yeah.
Hopefully down the line, he joins a long list of second generation, third generations. We've seen a lot of juniors come up over the last couple of years, Bobby Witt Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., but we have all the faith in the world. Homer Bush Jr. is going to join that class real soon. Homer, we thank you so much for your time, and we're looking forward to the Staten Island Ferry Hawks getting kicked off on Friday, April 28th. I believe it is a home game. Yes. So any final thoughts and words of wisdom from the great Homer Bush?
Man, just come out to the ballpark. We're going to be an exciting, we're going to have exciting product on the field. We're going to be young, we're going to be fast. We're going to fill up the strike zone. I mean, the new rules is perfect for the style of baseball that, we're trying to put together for the Ferry Hawks team. So, like I said, I want the ball moving fast. I want bodies moving fast. I just want nothing but excitement and just energy for 126 games. So come on out to the ballpark.
Come on out to the ballpark. We're excited to see it. Homer, we thank you so much, sir. You have a good evening and good luck in your first year with the Staten Island Ferry Hawks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good luck, guys.
Thanks, Homer.
All righty.
Take care,
Homer Bush. Homer Bush, ladies and gentlemen.
Now
get off the bus. What are you
like
doing?
that?
And I tell you what, I'm actually really looking forward to going out to Richmond County Bank Ballpark, because I haven't actually been there since the Staten Island Yankees were in town. And the last time I went to the ballpark was probably, I want to say 2015 or so. And then it was vacant for 2 years until the Ferry Hawks took it over in 2022. And there were some eerie pictures of that ballpark, too. You're seeing the pictures. It was a ghost town. And it was actually very sad because that ballpark was part of our childhood. We went on a lot of school trips over there.
I hate to come in with the correction, Corey, but they are now named the Staten Island University Hospital Community Park. Say that 5 times fast. But they did change the name recently, so they are sponsored by SIUH. But yes, Ferry Hawks get kicked off April 28th, a Friday. And coming from Atlantic League professional baseball, when the Somerset Patriots were an ALPB team just a couple years ago, it is a fun environment to go out to. It's a family-friendly. I would say the ALPB and even the Frontier League Baseball, but mainly ALPB. ALPB is a great family-friendly environment. And if you're introducing your kid to watching baseball and you kind of want to save a little bit on going to the major league stadiums, even some of the minor league stadiums, going to an ALPB game gives you that competitive feel. And hell, you see some new rules that might get implemented over the time. So really cool experience. So hopefully guys are able to come out, support the Ferry Hawks if you're on the Staten Island area, if you're in the tri-state area, especially. But Homer was great sport to have on. He was awesome. So it was a lot of fun to talk to him. And Homer Bush, obviously, you can check out this interview on YouTube, and we're going to talk on YouTube in a little bit. But you can give him a follow at his socials as well as displayed on the screen. But we do have some show to get to. And before we get there, what's the best way to give us a follow on all our social platforms, Tom?
So you could follow Empire State of Baseball. That's at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram or Gam. I don't know, whatever. You also can follow us on Twitter at Grammy. I don't know. You can follow all of us on Twitter. You can follow the show at ESB Podcast. You can follow Corey at G Gory. You can follow Joe at Junior Pugs. Rich at Rich Day Rivera, and you can follow myself at T Wospil, and all on Twitter. Some of those are probably also the Instagram handles. Some of them maybe are not. I don't know.
Absolutely. And again, to our fans who are here, thank you so much for coming out. We really do appreciate it. We thank you. We love you. But let's get into more of our show, and let's get into opening day baseball. Since we are coming off of opening day weekend, Mets and Yankees pick up wins in their series. So there's a few things to touch on, but I really want to get into some of the rookie debuts. Kodai Senga made his debut against the Marlins yesterday. I don't know his exact line, but the ghost forkball I did see in highlights, and it looks just as advertised. So, Joe, Corey, what were we thinking Kodai Senga this early in the season?
Yeah, he had a great, a little nerves in the first inning, but locked it down. Only gave up 1 run. I think he struck out 8, all of them on that ghost forkball.
Oof, nasty.
And man, that thing moves. It's basically a forkball with the little curve to it. So that's his nickname for it. But really impressive debut for him. Once he kind of shook off the nerves. The Mets also had a really long first inning, so that really didn't help. Senga sat there for a good 20, 25 minutes, making sure that, he got in there and started to get warm. But that was as good of a debut as you could ask for from Senga. And I think that that's a really big positive for the Mets. And he's going to be a key in this rotation going forward.
Yeah, no, he pitched really well. And Joe, you mentioned the first inning, a little bit of nerves there, settled down at the end, and really had a phenomenal debut. After, I think at one point he retired like 12 straight or 9 or 12 straight, something like that. But the first inning for Kodai Senga too, I think it was like bases loaded, 1 out. He already gave up a run. And then what does he do? He gets a couple strikes out that inning, gives up a fly ball then to Marte to end the inning. And then after that, locked in completely. It was just the jitters, just a little jitters. But overall, that's exactly what we were hoping to see out of Kodai Senga. I couldn't ask for anything more. And I'm really looking forward to watching him pitch this year because that ghost fork adds a whole different element. I mean, a forkball, that used to be a pitch that used a little more frequently back in the day. Don't really see it anymore, except sometimes you're playing MLB The Show. You're doing a creative pitcher. Sometimes you throw those random pitches in there. But good to see that ghost fork in action. It was looking live. There was also a lot of talk, especially during spring training when he had the blister issue, I think, on his finger, was that with the different size baseball, would he be able to grip the forkball as well as he did in Japan? And obviously, if that pitch wasn't working for him, that's a big problem because that's his out pitch. It clearly worked yesterday.
Yeah, and what do we think of Volpe, guys? I mean, he obviously come in with all these expectations. Nothing crazy yet. I think he stole a couple bases, but has looked good defensively. Nothing out there that's making you concerned or worried. Obviously, they're batting him low in the lineup to keep the pressure off. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, I said it the season preview episode. Has a chance of lead the AL in steals. 3 games so far, 3 steals. So, on a fantastic pace there. He did have a little miscue. I think that was on Saturday on a ball. But other than that, he's been good. He's been working counts. One thing that I know that he is he's kind of known for in the minors is not being like overly aggressive. Like he'll take his walks, and I know there's been a couple at bats I've seen where it's been pitches that are right off the corner. And he's taking them, and he's getting on base because again, putting him on base is basically a double at this point. So. Real excited for how he's looked so far. Rich, what do you think from young Anthony so far?
Yeah, I'm loving what I'm seeing. He's as dynamic as advertised, and I know it's crazy to look at it 3 days in. And Tom was the one who called him out as the AL Rookie of the Year for his prediction for 2023. But doesn't he not look like somebody ready for this spot? Doesn't he look destined to be this kind of caliber player? The defense is there. He's a threat on the base paths. Obviously it's going to take a bit to get that bat around, but hope there is they just stick with it, and he can struggle. He could be bordering around the Mendoza line if it comes down to it. They just got to stick with the plan and hope for the best, because the worst thing they could do, and I remember Joe, you touched on this last week, is just do the easy swap for Oswald Peraza after a month. You don't want to do that. Keep this kid up. Keep going with him at the end of the lineup. Get his at-bats in, but he's really looking like an extra leadoff hitter in the 9th spot in the batting order.
Yeah, I don't think you can bring him up with the idea of like, well, if in a month it doesn't work, we just send him down. I mean, unless it looks horrible and he looks lost, then it's not a guy you do that up down with. So yeah, I think he's looked the part so far. Yeah, I don't know. It's been great.
Also, storyline this early season. Whoopsie, lost Rich. Another storyline this season is the rule changes. I think we can all kind of agree that the bases have been minimal impact. We are seeing more stolen bases.
It's been a big impact. I mean, there was the most steals, right? It wasn't like they had like the most steals on opening day since like 1903 or something insane like that.
Is that the
crazy stat?
Yeah. Is that the bases though, or is that the rules with the pickoff and the pitch timer that these runners are getting? have a really good idea when that ball's leaving the pitcher's hands.
Me personally, I think it's more of a mental thing than anything, because 3 inches, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I know they have the funny commercial with Daniel Vogelback swiping bases. Daniel Vogelback is not going to swipe a base. I mean, he just got thrown out on an easy double, didn't even make it to second base in today's game. Brutal. But I think it's more of a mental thing, and the extra 3 inches is giving these guys the confidence to swipe the extra, to go in ahead and take it. I also like what Tom brought up, too, about the throw over. I think that plays a big part in it as well, because you're seeing guys, even watching the Mets the other day, guys who aren't prototypically base stealers, once you do those couple of throwovers and you're not able to do another one, guys might go ahead and swipe that base because they figure, why not?
Didn't Acuna do it over the weekend? Like, he basically just got a sprinting start because he knew they already had the 2 throwovers. Someone, it was a base stealer. But yeah, you got to be judicious with that now. You can't just waste your throwovers because you're going to just let a guy go.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Exactly.
you're better off at that point trying for the third pickoff, because if you're letting like a top tier base stealer get a running start, no catcher is going to throw him out. You might as well just throw to first, and if you balk, he gets second anyway. You know he's going to steal it, so you're probably better off just trying to still get the pickoff.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it brings a cat and mouse game with these pitchers, and I don't know how automatic of a start it is. Because if you get too big of a lead, you're dead to rights coming back to first base or trying to take second when they try to pick you off a third time, that I can see that as we go further into the year of that being a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think a weekend in, hopefully I'm not coming in too loud. We're getting a little bit of technical feedback here. So hopefully we're all good now. I'm actually now a little self-conscious, but I know I'm loud, but I'm trying to be a little bit self-conscious about my voice right now. But 3 days into the new rule changes, and obviously it's kind of like dated a little bit because we see the whole month of these rules intact. And I think this is best for baseball. It's great to see this pace pick up. It's great to, be locked in on a pitch. I'm actually at the point where, like, I can't even do an extra thing on the side while I have the game in the background because I'm missing the next play of the game. I can't even slip into the other room and take care of something. So that's what the game has done. I think it's great, and I think the players are getting adjusted. And obviously, yeah, Cookie Carrasco, I think, started off the game today with with a pitch violation. So
yeah,
these things are going to happen. It's gonna be a transition period, and I think this is still what's best for baseball right now.
They had to do it this way, because if they just said, "Hey, pitchers, be faster," no one's going to do it. You have to have some sort of a penalty. And, I think as more guys come up through the minors using these rules and guys in the majors have them, the clock will be a non-factor, because guys will be used to it. We're just going to have a month or two, I think, of these growing pains. And we really should see a lot of the violations go down from there.
Listen, I mean, the thing with the pitch clock is, and I watch it, and yes, it is a vast improvement. It is quickening up the game. There are certain parts of it that just frustrate me. The 8-second rule for the batter that has to be looking at the pitcher. I mean, there's so little leniency when it comes to that. Canna got called on one today where he's in the box. He's literally lifting his head up at 7 seconds. Like, I don't get why we have to be so stringent on that 8-second mark. And then,
Safety.
Alonso got called on one where McNeil got a strike because Alonso on a foul ball was rounding second and running on contact. And then the ump stocked McNeil a strike because Alonso was jogging back to first base, in a fast pace. It's stuff like that I think is going to eventually hurt if they keep that up. I think
stuff like that is what they have to kind of work their way through, though. I think at the beginning, you kind of have to, when you make these rule changes, you have to call them by the letter of the law, and then you have to figure out, like, what's the intent here, and
listen, I kind of agree with what Max Scherzer said. I mean, I think this rule change with the pitch clock should turn into something where if we see both pitchers and all the hitters following the rule, the umpire can turn the clock off and say, we're good, we're running at a good pace. But I think what happens is when we have those egregious pitchers that are taking hours, the umps would be like, all right, clock's going on now.
I think it's a rule is a rule. You can't, I don't think they should turn it off and turn it on. I think that would then what if an ump turns it off? And I don't know. I think that's a
pretty, the thing is, how quick's too
silly
quick?
idea.
You know, it's just, it gets to a point where I just feel like there are certain times where the game doesn't breathe enough, and that's part of baseball. Well, I agree that we had to correct this because it was getting ridiculous. So I still think we have some more tinkering. I still think MLB's got to bring a little bit off of this. I mean, how quick do we want games? I mean, you know.
But the thing is, it's not the time of the game; it's the pace of the game. That's the whole thing.
No,
No one cares
I
about a 3-hour game. People care about, you know, watching James Karinchak like basically twiddle the ball and play with his ass before he throws a pitch, because it just
and that stuff needs to be eliminated. I completely agree, but I also don't think pitchers and hitters that are reasonably quick. And maybe just, like I said, Canna's not looking up at exactly 8 seconds. He's looking up at 7 seconds, and he's getting penalized. But he's in the box. He's in there.
That's a
you
safety
throw
thing,
the pitch. It's that stuff that bothers me.
But and I think safety thing. If the pitcher's saying I'm throwing and Canna's not looking, and God forbid something's high and tight, that's the reason for that. It just, players will adjust. It's been 3 or 4 games for everyone. I think by the time we get to June, players are going to be adjusted to this, and we're not going to see as much of this clunkiness that we have so far, even though it's been minimal, I think, in my eyes.
Yeah, they'll have to work out the kinks, and I think they will. But overall, when they first announced the changes, I was pretty negative about it, and I wasn't feeling hot. But I'll tell you what, in spring training, started to grow on me a little bit when I was seeing the numbers. And again, I was saying to myself, you know what, this is spring training. I'm not going to buy into the shorter game times. It doesn't really count. The Mets this weekend, like Rich was saying before, it feels like there's no time to take a break in between at-bats, to quickly run to the restroom, grab a beer, whatever you're trying to do. The games are going pretty quick, and I'm sitting down the other day watching the game. It feels like it was only 2 hours and the game was already over. I think the final time was 2:40, roughly, in that game I was watching. But overall, though, we'll see. They're going to work out the kinks. It'll get better from there. But overall, across baseball, though, great opening weekend. Again, great to have it back. We did have a day game today, as we were mentioning a little bit before. Mets absolutely shelled, but you're going to have those clunkers. Get it out of the way early, especially 2 o'clock on a Monday when most people can't watch it anyway, so it doesn't ruin your night. But talking about Carrasco a little bit, because I know the Mets started off right on opening day with Justin Verlander hitting the IL. Again, not expecting a long-term injury, a moderate strain, what they're calling a low-grade teres major strain, which is the supposedly the armpit area. They're going to rescan in about a week, but they're not expecting him to miss too many starts. But Carrasco today, little lower velocity on his pitches. They were saying that towards the 4th inning, I mean, he was dipping below 90s, and the one that he gave up a homer to Brian Anderson, 88-mile-per-hour fastball. Joe, as a Met fan, any concern with the overall health and age of the rotation outside of a couple of the kids there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with a guy like Carrasco is, you know, and Verlander and Scherzer have always been relatively quick. I don't think it's a problem. Carrasco is one of those guys who's middle of the road. He's older. He's going to have a hard time adjusting to this. And if your cardio as a pitcher is not on point anymore, you're going to have a problem with these rule changes. He was saying that between the fact that his pace had to increase and the fact that Freddie Peralta was so quick that he barely got a rest in between innings, they were saying that that was a factor in his fatigue heading into that 4th inning. He was not 100% on his gas tank at that particular point. So I think today was kind of a perfect storm. First start, Freddie Peralta's pitching basically a one-hitter at the time. And the fact that, you know, he was having a little adjustment to the pitch clock, got called on a couple of violations. You know, I think that kind of drained his gas tank a little bit. I'm not concerned until obviously something else comes up. With Carrasco, you always have to be concerned that something's going to pop up with him. He has a history of being injured. And the Mets need him right now until they get Verlander back. But for now, I'm okay. I think he's going to adjust a little bit better. And I think the next time around, you hope the offense actually gives him a little bit more time in the dugout.
And to piggyback off the pitch timer thing and flipping it back to the Yankee side, Yankee fans were pleasantly surprised to see Johnny Brito's opening day. His first major league start. Pitched very well. 5 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts, and got the win in his debut as he's stepping in for Luis Severino.
Sent down to AAA today.
And he sent down to AAA today, but I think that was more for a roster move because they wanted to call up Ian Hamilton.
They also don't need a fifth starter. With the off days, they don't need a fifth starter. He'll be back up.
He'll be back up. My question to you guys is, do you guys feel like now that AA and AAA pitchers who were almost like trained to be they're already acclimated to the rule changes that we see on the major league level? We got to think that these pitchers probably have an advantage or slight advantage over the major league pitchers who are still getting used to it. So I kind of want to see this through as the season goes along. But as we see more AA or AAA pitchers make their debut who only know how to pitch in the pitch time rule changes, it'll be interesting to see on the major league level. But that was just a quick note I wanted to make there. And we're going to move on, though. And before we get to our Chooch's Pick of the Week, which we're very excited to return here on the show, Joe, what is the best way for the fans who missed tonight's episode, and shame on you, to check out the replay of tonight's episode 40 of Empire State of Baseball?
Yeah, you could go to our YouTube page. We have full episodes of Empire State of Baseball up on our YouTube page. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You can view all our past episodes. You can view the episode that tonight's episode that's going to be on there. Our interview with Homer Bush will be on there as its own video this week, and you'll be able to view both of those at any time. So go, like, share, subscribe, send to anybody else who might have missed our interview with Homer and the rest of our episode.
Yes, sir. All of them are up there, so make sure to check out YouTube, like, share, and subscribe, as Joe beautifully said. But it's time. It is time to bring back Chooch's Pick of the Week. So with that said, we're going to turn it over. And we upgraded Matt this year. We gave him all a little graphic here on Empire State of Baseball. So congratulations, Matt, for sticking by us once again. But here is Chooch's Pick of the Week.
What's up, BSB crew? Chooch is back with Chooch's Pick of the Week. Glad to be back for another season of ESB. So this week, I'm just going to kick it off with the Mets and the Yankees this week, just to open up the season. Both teams opened up pretty good this weekend. Yankees 2-1, Mets 3-1. So they go into their next series this week. Mets versus the Brewers, Yankees versus the Phillies. I think they stay on.
Rich.
Oh,
did Rich freeze mid Chooch's Pick of the Week?
Rich,
no.
Rich with the Chooch on the Chooch's Pick of the Week.
Not the first time Rich has frozen on a Chooch before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Chooch's Pick of the Week.
We can't even see now.
Yep.
They're stuck behind the Chooch.
The Chooch's Pick of the Week is not Rich's Wi-Fi. I could tell you that now. So
hate to see it.
Hate to see it, but the Chooch, I love the shout out with the Mets and Yankees to start off, because this is a Mets and Yankees and New York baseball show. A little Ferry Hawks action as well.
I got it.
Oh, thank you, sir. But Matt, I do see you in the chat here too, and we got Rich back up here for a little Chooch's Pick of the Week. But let's go ahead. Let's replay the Chooch. We want to get his picks in there for the group.
Did we miss the audio altogether? Oh, man.
Just get to the picks.
We were good.
All right.
Halfway through it.
Picks were dropping.
So Matt's got Mets Yankees here for Chooch's Pick of the Week. He's got Mets over the Brewers, Yankees over the Phillies, and so far, I guess he's looking pretty good. I mean, he's not on the Mets side, but on the Yankees side, he's looking pretty good because the Yankees have an 8-1 lead over the Phillies. But what do you guys think? Is Chooch going to be 1-0 to start Chooch's Pick of the Week for season 2?
I'll tell you what, I hope with the Phillies, I hope the Yankees get a nice 3-game sweep this week versus the Phillies. Mets got Scherzer tomorrow, so if you're going to win this Brewers series, then no way to start better off than Scherzer tomorrow. The
Is
Mets
Burns
actually
going tomorrow?
I got to double check. I think he is going tomorrow, Corbin Burns. So that would be a premier pitching matchup. That will be tomorrow night. The series ends Wednesday. Another afternoon game, unfortunately. It's a Wednesday. I think another 2 o'clock game Wednesday to end the series. But Chooch, I hope you're right. Let me get a 3-0 Yankees sweep since the Mets lost today. Let's get a 2-1 Mets series win versus
Yankees are up 8-1 on Philadelphia right now.
Good. Keep the beat down coming.
The Bronx Bombers really showing up today. I know we had a homer for Glaber, homer for Rizzo. I think there might have been another one.
My God, the Phillies pitching. Walker got tagged, 4 earned in 4 1/3 innings.
Yeah.
And then Marte comes in and he gives up 4 runs in 1/3 of an inning.
Yeah, first inning for the Yankees was a little weird. Walker didn't even really honestly pitch terrible. He gave up a single that became a triple because the center fielder for the Phillies misplayed it, and then it was walk, soft grounder, 2 runs. So it's a lot of bad luck for Taiwan in the beginning there. But
and I'll tell you what,
really
though, we're talking about Taiwan. Yeah, and we'll tell you what, we're talking about Taiwan right now. Not a great opening week for former New York Metropolitan pitchers. Obviously, Taiwan in line for the L today. Chris Bassett the other night, was he bad too? 9 earned runs in 3 1/3 innings pitch. And Chris Bassett, that was the Mets' number 3 starter last year. He was actually the most consistent pitcher for the Mets last year because Scherzer did miss some time here and there. Bassett seemed to be old reliable for the Mets until the very end down the stretch. And then Jacob deGrom, also taking the L in his debut for the Texas Rangers, has the highest ERA of any point of his career, which is crazy. I mean, it's only 1 game, but still, in his rookie year, he never even had an ERA of 12.27 at any point of his career. Another one, 3 2/3 innings. He did have 7 strikeouts, so the strikeouts were rolling. But
the thing I thought about with deGrom the other day, he gave up more extra base hits in his game with the Rangers than he's ever given up before. That leads me back to the last time we actually saw deGrom as a mortal pitcher on the mound, which was all the way back when he had that terrible start in Texas before he just rattled off some of the best seasons you've ever seen. Wouldn't you think in the back of your mind, if you were a pitcher, the worst start of your life is in Texas, and you turn around and you sign back with Texas?
Oh, boy.
Millions of dollars will make you do crazy things, Joe.
Yes, I agree with the money, but don't you think that's got to be somewhere in the back of your mind? Like,
I don't.
That was the bench. That was the change in point of his life. That start. When Terry Collins sat him down on that bench and he said, you know what? I want to go pitch in the last ballpark and probably the only ballpark I got bombed in. Actually,
that ballpark doesn't exist anymore. Well, maybe it still does. That's not where he's playing.
And listen, and Joe mentioned deGrom.
It's an ironic point.
Yeah, and Joe mentioned deGrom. Corey, I know you threw it out to Chris Bassett, and we mentioned on the show that Chris Bassett might be that pitcher that struggles the most out of the new rule changes in pitch timers because he was a very methodical pitcher, very slow-moving. So clearly, and I can't attribute it to this, but in his first game under the new rules, he does have a clunker of a start. So not a good day for Bassett, not a good day for deGrom, not a good day for Taiwan Walker. To say the least. But we're going to get into our final closing thoughts here on the show. But before we get there, just got a quick little announcement on some of our game segments. As you saw earlier today, we had the return of Guess the Graph with Homer Bush that he easily got Tino Martinez on. So credit to Homer for getting Tino on the first try. But this year, we're going to do game segments a little bit differently this year. We're actually going to keep standings for our host, for our guest. A guest will be 1 pool, and for our audience members as well. So we'll see who's going to have the bragging rights by year end. We might even throw a little prize in there, depending on who is the best at all these contests that we do. But we will keep standings as the season goes along for all our games. Guess the Graph. We're going to see a return for Trick of the Trade. We're going to see a return for a player to be named later. And we're going to have a new trivia segment overhauled by our very own guest in the chat, Andrew Corey, also Core Ryan here, who's going to be headlining our new trivia bit called Core's Curriculum, which will be making its debut within the coming weeks. So that's going to be a very fun trivia segment. So stay tuned for that. So that's all our news on those gaming segments. And of course, Chooch's Pick of the Week is back. John Hernandez, who is our fantasy expert, he's going to bring back the Fantasy Hot Corner, which will make its return next week as well. So we have a lot of fun stuff coming up for our show. And of course, Joe mentioned YouTube before, and YouTube, of course, we love to have your participation, see your comments on some of our YouTube clips. Over the last few weeks, we've had some cool segments. We did our March Madness tournament, which you see here on our screen, the March Madness baseball tournament. So if you want to check out who won that, make sure to give us a look on YouTube. We also did our predictions, and this is one of them. We actually predicted our World Series winners so early into the year. And of course, Joe predicted the Mets, because why wouldn't he predict the Mets for the predictions of the 2023 season? And of course, we also talked about our outfield. We got into our outfield rankings and debated these top 10 outfielders, if they belonged on the list or not. But you could be a part of the debate for our YouTube page and, of course, on all of our social media platforms for Empire State of Baseball. But I'm going to send it to the guys now for some closing thoughts. Tom, starting with you, any thank yous? What do you got, bud?
I mean, definitely thank you to Homer. I'm sure we're all going to thank him. It was awesome to talk to him. Really, really cool guy. Best of luck to him him and the Ferry Hawks for this season. And just, yeah, we're excited for the 2023 baseball season. Hopefully both teams are going to be in it and into the end, so we can get more debates. I could yell at Joe some more. It's not fun to yell at Joe if the Mets are like kind of a middling team, which I don't think they will be. So we're hoping for that, and just excited for baseball to be back for real.
Yeah, again, like Tom said, thank you to Homer. That was a great interview. Great to have him on. Provided some great insight for us, not only on the Ferry Hawks, but a little bit of inside information into that 98 Yankee team. That was really cool to hear. And thank you to all the listeners that tuned in to watch them. You guys did a great job today. I think we had upwards of 30 listeners live at one point. So we're going to check out those numbers later. So, and thank you to baseball.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you to Homer again all around. Thank you to the chat. Very active participation today. Also, a random fact I wanted to call out today. Again, we have Core's curriculum coming up. We have another Core stat right here. Not really a stat, but a funny comment here. Brewers today with the Mets had their opening day, and they had a nice fly over the stadium. The roof was closed. They had a flyover with the.
You couldn't open it for 5 minutes.
Very productive.
You couldn't open it. See the F-22s fly over, then close it back up. Oh, come on! And especially up there in where they are, they had all the drone issues and the UFOs getting shot down. You might have actually gotten to see some action if the roof was open up there.
Absolutely. And yes, to echo the sentiments of my co-host, we want to thank Homer Bush first and foremost. He was awesome to have on this show. Hopefully we'll have him on for another episode as we get into the crux of the 2023 ALPB season and check in on him and the Ferry Hawks as we move along. I want to thank my co-host for doing a great job today. Big time interview we had. First time we had a guest on the show, and I think you guys knocked it out of the park. So great job on all of you. And of course, our viewers, we thank you so much. I didn't see the exact numbers, but they were record breakers for us. So we thank you all for being a part of it. Homer was very appreciative to see all you guys out here. He's very appreciative of having himself on the show as well. And I also want to thank MLB The Show for putting me on my ass this weekend, just trying to grind through Diamond Dynasty and really put a big squad together. So I got the captain's edition with the hat. So Diamond Dynasty, MLB The Show, always a good time at this time of the year. But of course, thank you, baseball, for coming back. We needed you so much, and hopefully we get a good transition back into good weather. It's been some cold days. It's been very random weather days here, but we're back in the spring, and I wouldn't have it any other way as we move into some hotter weather for the summer. Guys, thank you so much. We'll be back here next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Twitch for episode number 41. Take care.